New South Wales picking their players, and they seem to have a common trend of picking players based on their reputation more over their form. Hey everyone, welcome back. Sorry for the lack of posts. I thought we'd get this one out. Me and the other guys have been busy with a few things, but we're going to start ramping up some content soon, so this will be good. We're talking today a State of Origin Game 1 recap. We're going to go through a quick overview of the game and talk about some other key points and what teams should change for the next game, particularly New South Wales. We have, if most people don't know, if they haven't seen State of Origin, it's a rivalry between New South Wales and Queensland. It's a fairly big deal in Australia in terms of State of Origin. And you're either a New South Wales or New South Welshman, or you're a Queenslander. So where this episode will probably be based more towards the New South Wales side of things, but we will mention Queensland as well. So we're just going to start with a quick overview of the game. Game finished 26-18 to Queensland. So just another, quick bit of information. State of Origin is 3 games. You got to win at least 2 of the 3 games to win the title. And State of Origin has been going on for quite a while. So there's a rich history of State of Origin in Australian Rugby League. So as I said, 26-18 to Queensland, and it was definitely a shock for this New South Wales side to have some of these tries come through, particularly the first couple tries. So first couple tries come through Hamasai Tabuai Fito and Selwyn Cobbo in quick succession of themselves, 3 minutes apart, I believe, off the back of 2 New South Wales penalties. Some of these penalties come off the back of Hudson Young, I believe. Luke, would you like to give any insight into that? You mean Hudson Young on his debut? How did you think he went?
Absolutely. So, guys, pleasure to be here again. Been a while. Absolutely. So, yeah, the first 10 minutes, Origin was an interesting game, actually, because the first 10 minutes was dominated by Queensland, like you said, Matt, with those couple of early tries to the Hammer and to young Cobbo. But then New South Wales then grinded it out for the next 30 minutes. But I'll answer your question in regard to those. Yeah, the start of the game was very stop-start, from the sense that I remember, I think first or very early on, Reece Walsh kicked out with that foot on Frizell for a tackle in the air. There was a bit of a scuffle there. I think it was a very physical game. Ref was tight with the penalties, tight with the discipline, didn't want to get it out of hand. But I think as well, a big part of it was, Hudson Young, and we'll get to it a bit later, but Tavita Pangai Jr., both good players, but I think they were overwhelmed. And I think the Origin arena was a bit too much for them. And it led to a dodgy strip penalty, I think led to that second try. And It didn't need to be given. There were 2 in the tackle and he came out and ripped the ball out. I mean, you just don't need to do it. They get field position. Queensland executed better and they scored a try. So, yeah, absolutely. It's just, if New South Wales, it's not good enough. I mean, it's just, you got to keep your discipline. There's not too much between the teams. So you got to be really tight on it.
That's it. New South Wales versus Queensland's always a big heated game or a big heated series. And you can't be giving away penalties like that because we know how cynical Queensland is, especially on those edges. Queensland seem to score most of their tries on those edges. I mean, if you look back into previous State of Origin series, you'd always see Queensland manage to get in on, I believe it was the left-hand side with either, Corey Oates was there a few years prior. Back in the days where Queensland had that 8 straight, it was always Darius Boyd getting into the corners there.
Inglis on that side. Dane Gaggai's had success at Origin level for years.
Exactly.
They're consistently able to do it. So whoever they put in, they're always ready with Queensland. That's the thing about Billy, and I'm probably sure we'll get to it a bit later, but Billy over Fred Fittler. Billy always gets his players ready for the game. That's a knack of Queensland. They always believe they can win. New South Wales, not so sure.
Exactly. And, a lot of people say that New South Wales just don't get Origin. And, Queensland, they get Origin. They manage to do some miraculous things. I mean, I've seen, and I know Luke as well, has seen Queensland do some astounding things in the games. They've come back from games that we thought were completely dead, they've piled on massive results. I don't know what it is about these Queenslanders, but whenever State of Origin comes around, every single player in that team goes to another level. And you see it year in, year out. I mean, Jonathan Thurston, Darren Lockyer, Greg Inglis, Dane Gagai back a few years ago. And then now you see like some of these younger guys coming up now, like Selwyn Cobbo. We saw Reece Walsh get his debut.
Reece Walsh was outstanding
and
on Wednesday night. He really was. He was best on ground.
Exactly. Reece Walsh, best on ground. A lot of people.
I think Ruben Cotter got it, but Reece Walsh didn't make a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people had some stipulation of whether picking Reece Walsh over Kalen Ponga was a problem, but I think that Reece Walsh has definitely shushed some of the doubters with this first game. He had a tremendous game for someone that young being introduced into Origin, and he would have been introduced earlier, but the last time he was going to get introduced into Origin, he actually had an injury which put him out. I believe he was 18 at the time. So yes, so he's definitely had leaps and strides this year, not just with the Broncos, but with State of Origin as well, and he probably has solidified that number one role for a few years to come. We also look, there's another familiar name on the score sheet for Queensland, Cameron Munster. He seems to be everywhere. He does everything, seems to be everywhere. Luke, any thoughts on Munster? He sort of slid into that 5'8" role pretty nicely after Darren.
Munster's the best player in the league when everything goes right for him. I mean, New South Wales haven't been able to guard him. I mean, that combo of him and Cherry Evans in the halves, that's always, every time, that'll beat Luai and Cleary. Every single game. That's the thing. Those guys believe, and Munster is just that good. If you're New South Wales, and I heard Greg Alexander, one of the assistants, say it, Cameron Munster is the one they're worried about. Because think about Munster. He'll do nothing for like 50, 55 minutes of the game, then just go into full GOAT mode for 20 minutes and just single-handedly put the team on his back. Didn't do it this time, but he's done it before and he'll do it again. So that's the big danger. New South Wales don't have anyone to actually stop him. And that's been a big problem for years.
That's it. Munster's sort of like the catalyst for the team. He has those moments where he can just turn on a dime and just go. And he produces some amazing highlights that we've seen over previous years as well. You mentioned before, Ruben Cotter got best on ground for Queensland, but best on ground for New South Wales. I know that best on ground for that Ruben Cotter one was overall for the game, but we just got to mention Liam Martin. The guy played out of his skin. I mean, he's had an injury this season. He's barely played, and he come out and absolutely rocked it. He put some big hits on some people and took some big hits as well. And I swear he was in almost every tackle from what I was watching. He was always either the second man off the marker, making the tackles, or he was coming in, making sure on that third man coming in on the tackle, making sure that everyone was shoring up the tackle right. So Liam Martin, he managed to get a try as well. I mean, I thought he was probably the best one on ground for New South Wales. Luke, what do you think?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Martin was really good. So was Frizell. Both back rows were good. Friz should have got that try in the first half. Don't know how it was not given. Yes. But yeah, with that, Martin was excellent. Again, nice short ball from Luai, played on the left edge, played in the middle as well, so the middle and the edge, which is really versatile in an Origin game. I remember one you talk about Martin with the big hits, and that's what you're going to get out of Martin. He might be underdone fitness-wise, but the thing is you're always going to get a guy that's an angry man, and Martin will always go to put the big hit on. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It really worked in that case. One particular example, I remember someone put a kick in, and he sprinted down and was the first man there. And he put this massive shot on, I think it was either Walsh or Cobbo, and it rocked him. And I mean, he didn't end up getting him down, but then it allowed, I think, Luai and someone else to bring the tackle and bring him down. But Martin rocked him, and it led to a dropout. So that kind of energy, you'd hope it'd lift the team. It didn't on that occasion at times, but normally that would lift New South Wales. So yeah, Martin was definitely the best on ground and definitely earned his spot and definitely I wouldn't say I wouldn't have him in the team, but I had my doubts just over the fitness and how much game he's actually had. But yeah, certainly ready for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I agree with you as well. I definitely had my doubts of Liam Martin before the game started. I mean, I voiced this to our our group of mates before the game actually started that I think they should have had Olakawatu from Manly in there, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm glad Liam Martin definitely proved me wrong. There was also some other tries for New South Wales through Critter, Stephen Crichton, and Appy Coruscant. But there was a bit of controversy. The Tyson Frizell try that Luke mentioned before that was disallowed. That looked to be on the ground, and the bunker reviewed it a few times and deemed it a no try. Luke, I mean, what can you say about this? The Tyson Frizell try, from my perspective, looked like a try.
It's a try.
Yeah, what's going through the bunkers?
There's no doubt about it. Great effort from Tulagi. But I think his Frizz was short, and then he rolled over, and part of the ball was on the line.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because that was a try, and that wasn't given. And that Coruscant one was such a blatant, obvious knock on.
Yeah,
I don't know how it wasn't called. So if you're looking for the rugby league gods, it kind of was a square up. But I mean, the bunker's got to be better, and we'll get to the refereeing a bit later. He made a horrible call late in the game regarding a sin bin. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. But overall the refereeing was actually quite poor in the game, ref and bunker as well. So I don't know how that wasn't a try, and I don't know how the Coruscant one was given.
Exactly. Also, leading to talking about performances, one reliable player for New South Wales didn't really have the best performance that he's had in recent years. One being James Tedesco, the fullback. Now, we've seen Tedesco be a very consistent and quality player for New South Wales, and he's had a howler this game. He's had, personally, in my opinion, he's had a howler. I mean, he slipped over in the second last try when Hammer was going through last line of defense. He got out jumped by his own teammate, a forward from Queensland, Lindsay Collins, to score or to assist Cameron Munster for that last try. He had the chance to stop Cobbo on one of Cobbo's tries. And as Cobbo was slowing down, Tedesco let him go over the try line. I mean, personally, I haven't played much NRL, so I don't know if taking him out over the sideline is something that he can do in that situation, or if he's just let him go over. But mainly, one thing that stood out to me was Teddy's attempt for a try took on the center on that side, so it would have been Hammer. And Hammer's stepped in, and Murray Tulagi has stepped over. And instead of making the pass out to Addo-Carr, Tedesco's gone himself and is held up pretty well, actually, I might say. It was a very good try-saving tackle. But if he makes that pass to Addo-Carr, Luke, does Addo-Carr score that?
Of course he does. And there was one that Crichton didn't pass either. New South Wales have got to move the ball more. Queensland did it. Queensland were moving the ball in their 30, 20. They weren't afraid to move the ball. They had the speed out wide to do it. The thing about Ted, though, it's a real. I mean, it obviously is a concern for New South Wales, but he's a good player. People are saying he should be dropped. I don't think so. Personally, he's proved he can play at the level. Everyone has a bad game, but to be honest, I'm not surprised with Tedesco. I mean, good player, but he plays for the Roosters, and the Roosters have been really out of form as a team. So it doesn't surprise me that he's playing like this. But it's just that Cobbo try. I don't know about getting him, out of touch or whatever. But the thing is, if you're the fullback coming across your last line of defense, you got to make contact on the ball, and he didn't. Exactly. So you got to hit him, and you got to try it. If you don't get him out, at least stun him or make him work for it. And also, Cobbo did really well to keep in. But Teddy's just got to be a lot more refined as well with the way he plays.
Definitely. Roosters haven't been playing this well this season. That leads us into another point that I'd like to make is New South Wales picking their players, and they seem to have a common trend of picking players based on their reputation more over their form. A couple of players in the squad that I personally didn't think should be in the squad and were picked on reputation. Namely, I believe that they shouldn't have picked Tommy Turbo. No disrespect out to Tommy Turbo and the Sea Eagles and all the other fans, but Tommy Turbo I didn't think was fit for the game. As we could probably tell during his performance of the game, he didn't play up to the standard that he normally does. And he had an injury and then had one good performance before Origin and managed to solidify his spot, but he didn't really play up to his standard. And I know that we had some injuries Latrell Mitchell out 2 days before. Campbell Graham
Another big
got
one.
hurt.
Yeah.
Another big one. But there were some options for that center role. And, if we were looking at picking someone, I guess not really over form, as I might say, but someone to replace Tommy Turbo in that centers, I don't know, I'd be looking towards someone like Matt Burton. I mean, Matt Burton would have had a nice utility arsenal with him, namely his kicking game, his big bombs that could have got New South Wales out of some trouble during the game. And he's played centre before at the Origin level and has done pretty well at centre. So, Matt Burton, should he get picked in the next game for Tommy Turbo's replacement, Luke, or do you think they still go with Tommy Turbo again?
I don't know. I think Latrell Mitchell comes back on the left side, so he'll
Yes.
go to left centre because Latrell's only got a smiley. It's a little calf injury, but I think there's rumours that he might play for Souths again next week, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Tommy Turbo, they used him as a battering ram, though. They used him as a front row. He actually didn't really do much. We know he's not fit, but they didn't utilise his skill because remember in 21, when it was effective, Tommy was roaming around both sides of the field being a second fullback. Wasn't doing that. So the thing is, it's to be effectiveness. I think he keeps his spot, to be honest, if he's fit, but the way he's going, anything could happen. But again, Stephen Crichton's played a lot of footy on the right. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes back to the right side. I think Burton's more a left side player. And I think Latrell comes in and takes that left spot. But I wouldn't mind seeing Burton sneak onto the bench because his utility value and the current utility are getting a promotion. But I'm sure you'll cover that a bit later as well.
That's actually the next point I'd like to talk about. So, picking people over form instead of reputation. I mean, as most of you can see, the New South Wales team is almost like picking the Penrith Panthers team. I think they had 5 or 6 Penrith players in the lineup, and they had the halves pairing of Luai and Cleary. Now, on the bench, they had their 14th man as Nicho Hynes. So Nicho Hynes plays halfback for the Sharks. Nicho Hynes won the Daily M Medal of the Year last year and has been in blitzing form this season. And they kept him on the bench up until the last 10 minutes and then brought him on in a centre position in replacement for Tommy Turbo. Now,
played right centre when Turbo went off here.
Yes. Personally, next game, I believe that they need to start Nicho Hynes in the 5'8" position with Nathan Cleary and drop Jerome Luai. What do you think?
I agree as well. To be fair, I don't think it's anything with Luai. I actually think Luai was actually one of the New South Wales better players on Wednesday night. I think that short ball he put on to Martin was good. I think he's kicking in his overall. I think it was better than Cleary overall. But the thing about it is just I think Hynes is too good a player to have him playing 10 minutes a game at centre. And everyone will hate him because of that missed tackle, but he did miss the hammer. But again, he's not used to defending out that wide. That's another thing. But also the thing is with that as well is after the game, Fittler basically said that if Turbo didn't go down, Hynes wouldn't have come on. And I think that's an absolute waste. He's too good a player in a big game to play 10 minutes out of position or not play at all. Exactly. I mean, it's nothing against Luai, but I just think you just got to pick on form. And I get they like that Penrith connection in the middle. You got Yo, Cleary, Luai, and then obviously Coruscant. Not there at the moment, but won a couple of comps with Penrith. I think that's what they're trying to build. But the thing is, I think you got to give the ball to Hynes and just say make a play because he's done it lots of times for the Sharks. And there's no reason why he can't do it for New South Wales.
So Jerome Luai had a pretty good game in the first game. Does that sort of warrant a discussion of maybe keeping Luai in the 5'8" and giving Nathan Cleary a bit of a scare, putting Nicho Hynes in the 7, giving Nathan Cleary some fire to have a more of an impact in the game, Luke?
No, I think Cleary keeps his spot. He's still the best halfback in Australia. Yeah, he hasn't performed consistently at Origin level, but Cleary's a good player and he'll get the job done. He's the Australian halfback. Two comps, 3 grand finals. He deserves to be there.
Definitely. Yeah. So I think, sum it all up, Luai out and put Nicho Hynes in. I think that'd be a good adjustment for the game up in Townsville in 3 weeks' time, which is a must win for New South Wales to keep their hopes alive of winning this State of Origin series. Now, look, I know we've talked about some already, but is there any other changes that, could come to mind, Luke, for the next game up in Townsville? I know you mentioned, Tavita Pengai Jr. before. Is there any changes New South Wales can do to help bolster their run to try and bring back this series?
Yeah, there is. Pangai Junior goes, Junior Paulo moves up, and then you bring another middle onto the bench. Don't know who from the top of my head, but someone like Satola or even a Clever. Stefano Utuikamanu was in the squad. He's a good young player as well. Don't know if he's up to it, but yeah, that's a change. Pangai just wasn't up to it, and that offload that led to that try for Queensland was stupid on your 30-metre line after defending a set. So that's just idiotic play, but that's what Pangai does. So we know that risk going in. Another thing as well, he didn't play too badly either, but I'd rather Cook over Coruscant, me personally.
Yep.
I think Cook offers more speed out of dummy half. Again, they always talk about that, but I reckon you might bring Cameron Murray on to start at an edge. Get rid of Hudson Young. Frizell keeps his spot. So I think there's a bit of jigging around. I don't think there's massive changes, as people are saying, but I think New South Wales could tweak it just based on the situation. I think Martin, to be honest, stays on the bench. I think he had a really good impact coming off the bench, and you got to have that punch. But for me, Cameron Murray goes onto an edge for Hudson Young, and Junior Paulo goes into the starting lineup.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, Cameron Murray, he's a very good player in club level, and in the representative sides, he's an even better player as well. He had some good impact on Wednesday night for State of Origin. Not as big as Liam Martin, but with Cameron Murray, the consistency of his playing level that you're going to get from him, and he's got to be in that starting lineup. He's someone that bolsters and is a team leader. So I definitely agree with that. And Damien Cook, I was very shocked when they picked Ari Colasar over Damien Cook, because I personally, other than with the exception of Harry Grant, I think Damien Cook is probably the best hooker in Australia. So I was very shocked with that. And I think, Damien Cook should get in there. I know there's a lot of talk through the Blues camp about trying to bring in some younger dummy halves, because, Damien Cook's in his 30s. Abby Coruscant's in their 30s, and they got to start looking ahead for the future. Is there any hookers that come to mind, Luke? I know there's been some mention about the Sharks hooker Brayley and the Cowboys hooker Reece Robson. I mean, who would you like to see get brought into this this Blues squad over the next coming years?
Yeah, they're the next two. Blake Brayley from Cronulla and Robson from the Cowboys. Depends on who you want. They're completely different players. Brayley's a runner, so Brayley's a bit more like Cook and Coruscant. Whereas Reece Robson's a really good defender, so he's a lot more solid defensively and things like that. Depends what you go for. Personally, I really like Blake Brayley. I think he's been a really good player, so he's the next one in line. They brought him into camp during the week as well, because the Sharks had a bye. Good experience for him, so I think he's definitely in the conversation. But to be honest, I think Cook and Coruscant, I reckon, have got at least another 2 years in them between them for that spot. So it might interchange, but I don't think Brayley's going to get a gig anytime soon.
No. Yeah, it'll definitely be a couple of years, but it's definitely good to start looking into the future, because New South Wales need to, I guess, start building up some more talent and getting some chemistry between these guys that they're going to start picking in the next few years, so we can at least have a run towards Queensland. I mean, the squad sort of looks like it's starting to form to be the Penrith Panthers squad. I mean, we saw a lot of time in the game. They utilised, a lot of the left side of their attack, being that Brian Toll and Stephen Crichton were on that side. We didn't really see them go to Josh Addo-Carr's side a lot during the game. So they sort of kept towards that Penrith connection. So, it'd be good to see them starting to bring some other guys in as well. I mean, the Penrith Panthers have been doing well the last couple of years. They've won the league. So I can't really, give an argument to how good the players are. And I'm not judging each player individually, but I'm trying to, I guess, get to the point that New South Wales, to be like Queensland, Queensland players, some of them haven't really played together as much as others. Previous years when they had that 8 straight, the lineup was together for quite a few years. But this year, the Queensland guys, at least a few of them play together in the club level, and they've probably had a few other games with each other at representative levels as well. So I think New South Wales need to start looking to that future and start building chemistry between players that are in different clubs at the moment, so we can give a good run towards Queensland.
No, they certainly do. But think about New South Wales. Well, it was absolutely crazy what Fittler did. You've got Brian To'o and Stephen Crichton on the left to play on the right for Penrith. You got Josh Adokar, who's a left winger, playing on the right. So just get him on the right sides. And then you got Tom Turbo, who is fullback for Manly, but a lot of the attack he does is primarily on that left side of the field.
Exactly.
And it just didn't happen. I just don't understand why. Like, there must have been a reason for it, but for me, it doesn't make any sense.
So this is a nice segue into our final point. Does Fittler get the boot from the coaching job? Yes or no? If he does, what's the timing of that, and who sort of gets brought in as the coach, Luke?
Well, it won't happen mid-series, but Fittler's got an interesting one because if he loses, he'll go. But if he wins, he's actually got an option for next year that automatically triggers. So if they win the series, if they win the next 2 games, he'll coach next year. If they lose the next game, he'll coach the series out, but he won't be back next year. So that's actually a really, really easy one. My honest opinion, Fittler should have gone last year. I mean, he's only won 1 out of 3 series. I think this is his 4th series, maybe his 5th. But hasn't done consistently well again. He's been out coached by Billy Slater, the guy that's never coached in the NRL. Not saying Billy can't coach, but he's never done it. Fittler coached the Roosters and they came last. So I've never personally rated Fittler as a coach. But Origin's a different beast, I know that, but yeah, should have went last year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no doubt the performances he's had in the previous years, especially when people labelled the Queensland team a couple of years ago as the worst team Queensland has put forward in quite a while, and they still managed to steal the series off New South Wales with a last-minute try by a dummy half run from Harry Grant that sealed their series up in the Game 3 thriller. So with all that said, Luke, who would you like to see in the New South Wales coaching job?
That's the thing. There's no real alternative for New South Wales. I mean, you look at Queensland, you've got the Thurstons, the Smiths, the Slaters, you've got those ex-players. New South Wales don't really have that. Paul McGregor's an assistant up there. Potentially Laurie Daly could do it again, even though I think he's the worst coach I've ever seen. Daddy Badiris is up there, or you could go for someone like Trent Barrett. He's not coaching at the moment. He's an assistant at Parramatta. They generally don't like to have NRL coaches do it. But that's a thing for Fittler as well, that there is no obvious alternative, or I hope it doesn't happen, but people are also saying Andrew Johns, but I don't really think that's the point, because I think Andrew Johns is an idiot, I always have, but we'll see what happens. Not my call.
You never know. A former Dragons player and maybe assistant coach on the Souths, Ben Hornby might get a call up. He's done pretty well at the Souths at the moment, so who knows? Might see Ben Hornby in the conversation, Luke.
Ben Hornby might have a better job than New South Wales to do, or maybe not a better job, but a more pressure job, potentially at the Dragons, over what's happened to the Dragons in the last week with an ex-player knocking back the club to sign as an assistant with Melbourne. But I'll just keep it at that. But yeah, what a shambles for the Dragons.
There's definitely some shambles with the Dragons that we can have some further conversations about in a future podcast. So with all that said, Luke, how do you think New South Wales can come back on this? I mean, we'll just give a quick little overview. You know, they definitely got to win Game 2. Game 2 is a must win for them to stay into this series. How do you think Game 2 is going to go? Just a quick score prediction, and who do you think is going to win?
Oh, up in Brisbane, Queensland will win it. Queensland will win it. I think it'll be similar. It'll be 26-18. Queensland again. I think it'll be a close game. I think Queensland will play. I think it's very similar to the game on Wednesday. The game on Wednesday didn't surprise me at all, because like we said, Queensland have done it every year, so have New South Wales. But we've backed New South Wales a lot. But give a lot of credit to Queensland. They did a lot of defending with a lot of players around. They had Ben Hunt playing centre there for a bit. Tom Gilbert went down early. The hammer went off with the HIA. They had a lot of injuries, but they dug deep and they always believed they could win. So full credit to them. They really played well, and they epitomised that spirit. So 100% hats off to Queensland. They deserve to win.
Definitely, yeah, they're definitely a very big powerhouse team, and they put in a lot of work. I reckon that I want to be very optimistic and say New South Wales is going to steal this, just so we can have a great tense decider in Sydney for the third game. As for a score prediction, I guess I'd rather like to wait to see what the weather conditions would be like up in Townsville, but I guess, it's going to be a bit drier. It could have a little bit of a little drizzle up there, but you never know. With the tropical weather up in Townsville, it's more than likely going to be a bit hotter up there, and probably a little bit humid. But I want to say New South Wales is going to steal the victory, 22-16, I believe. So, with all that said, thank you everyone for listening to our Game 1 wrap-up of the State of Origin. If you have any comments, questions, queries, please put them down in the comments below and we will do our best to respond back to them. Please like, subscribe the channel, and if you want to hear more from us, please follow us on our social medias. They'll be all linked down below, and we'll be back with our Game 2 review after Game 2 happens. Thanks everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.